If you're looking to learn football skills, you've once again come to the right place, as in this 1-hour episode you will get a step-by-step tutorial for 45 unique skill moves. Now there's a bit of everything for all skill levels, and you can check out the time codes in the first comment to see an overview of the different player skills, first touch skills, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's kick it off.
Over the years, Ronaldo has changed his game, and today we're going to learn 5 of his most iconic skills. The first skill is one Ronaldo used most often in his Manchester United days. So he'd have the ball on the sideline, and there was 2 phases to this move that made it so effective. The first phase is to bait the defender, and the second phase is to push the ball past them and accelerate. So the first phase is stepping over the ball and then using your back foot, the inside, to push it to the inside of the pitch. That makes the defender think that's where you're going with the ball, so they lunge for this, and then you can quickly use the inside of the same foot to then push the ball down the line. So it has to be a quick movement and all in one fluid action. So we step in front of the ball, our back foot pushes it to the inside, then it's a quick snap, and then we accelerate up the line. The second iconic Ronaldo skill is a move that's almost like the Elastico, but of course Ronaldo being Ronaldo, he adds his own spice to it to make it unique to him. So once again, he's showing the defender, making it look like he's going to go to the inside, and he takes a little touch forward with the heel of his right foot. And then because he has really quick feet, he then snaps his foot to the inside, making the ball go down the line, and then he accelerates away. So 2 phases once again. The first phase, push it forward with the heel, then almost in one movement like an Elastico, we snap our foot to the inside and accelerate away. The third skill is very similar to the second skill, but instead of using the inside of the foot, we're going to use the outside of the foot. So this is a skill Ronaldo uses to make the defender think he's going down the line, and then he cuts to the inside. So just like before, instead of using the inside heel, we're going to use the outside heel. So right at the back of the foot, we're going to push the ball forwards, make it seem like we're going down the line, and then we're going to open up our foot quickly and snap the ball to the inside. So once again, very much like the Elastico movement, but it's all with the outside of the foot. So 2 phases once again, we push it forward with the outside of the foot, then snap it towards the inside, and that's where we accelerate away. The fourth skill is one Ronaldo uses most commonly in the corner of the pitch. It's a great move for creating space to cross the ball, and you can also use this one on the sideline. There's 2 phases to this movement once again. The first phase is the step over. Then as our foot gets in front of the ball, we jump off of our standing foot and touch the ball with the inside across our body. So that's to bait the defender. So the defender thinks we're going to go this way. Then with our opposite foot, our left foot, we're going to touch the ball with the inside to the inside of the pitch. So let's piece it all together here. So we throw our foot around the front of the ball, jump off of our standing leg, touch it across, then touch it back to the inside, and that's where we accelerate away. The fifth skill combines 2 of Ronaldo's most iconic moves, the step over and the chop. And especially in the early days of his career, these 2 moves really put Ronaldo on the map. He could perform the skills with both feet and at such speed that it was impossible to predict which way he was going to go. So the first phase of the move is the step over. So we throw our foot around the front of the ball, then we plant that foot, jump off of it, and then we chop with the inside of our opposite foot, and then our left leg goes around the front of the ball. So we jump off and chop to the opposite direction. So the defender thinks we're going that way, so then we chop the ball behind our standing foot and accelerate in the opposite direction. So to perform the Gabriel Jesus turn, we need to make sure we're in a position where we can use it effectively. Jesus used it inside the box, but we can also use this in the middle of the pitch. So if you're a central midfielder, you can also add this move to your repertoire and you're going to turn defenders on a dime. So the first thing is making sure we have a defender tight on our back, and we're going to use the momentum of the ball to flick the ball in behind. So the ball has to be played in with enough pace that we can simply redirect the pace of the ball, flick it up off the inside of our foot, and it's going to have enough effect that it gets in behind the defender so we can turn them. The second thing we need to do is use our body to bait that defender into thinking we're going one way, then we're going to take the ball in the opposite direction, which is going to leave the defender off balance. So you'll notice as the ball is on its way to Gabriel Jesus, he slightly opens up his body, makes it seem like he's going to control the ball with his back foot. As he does this, Trent Alexander-Arnold bites on that movement so that when Gabriel Jesus takes his second touch, it's a lot easier for him to escape. So as the ball is on its way, you're going to open up your body, make it seem like you're going to control it with the back foot. That's going to make the defender commit. You flick the ball in behind, then you can get away nice and easy. Now let's talk about the flick that Gabriel Jesus uses, which makes the skill so effective and so unique. What players will typically do with this type of turn, as the ball is on its way, they'll use the inside of their furthest foot, push it back behind their standing leg, but they'll keep it on the ground, which can be an effective turn, but if the defender reads it, all they need to do is stick out a foot and it's going to block the path of that ball. What Gabriel does, he uses a technique that makes the ball pop up into the air. So even if that defender sticks out a foot, you can clear it and still get around them on the opposite side. So the technique that he uses the inside of the foot, he snaps down on the ball, which makes it pop up in the air, and he's still flicking it behind his standing leg. So it's a mixture of a chop and a Cruyff turn, but he's using the inside of the foot, popping down on the ball, which makes the ball lift up into the air so we can get on the other side. And the final tip is to make sure we're accelerating almost in the same movement as the chop. So when we perform that chopping action, as you can see, my foot's already in a position where I can accelerate. So I want to push off of that standing leg so that I can get in on the other side of the defender as quick as possible. The more I delay, the more I give the defender a chance to get in the way, block me, get to the ball. So we want to make sure it's all in one movement. So let's piece it all together here. All of the steps as the ball comes in, open up your body, chop it in behind, accelerate, and then finish.
Neymar, a bit of skill and acceleration and he's away.
This skill is a combination of two very easy moves I know you guys can do. Of course, we have the sole roll with the bottom of your foot and the CR7 chop with the inside of the same foot. Before we get into practicing, it's extremely important for us to understand what we're actually trying to achieve with this move. The ideal scenario for pulling off the Neymar flick is when you have a defender behind you. And with the first part of the skill, we are trying to make the defender behind us believe you're actually just gonna make a simple 180-degree turn and continue the game this way, but instead, we also whip out the CR7 chop and get rid of the defender behind us. So let's start practicing, and I know all of you guys can do the simple sole roll. So our step one is the Ronaldo chop. Now, if you're already 100% familiar with the Ronaldo chop, you can just skip over to step number two. But for my beginners out there, the Ronaldo chop is essentially you tapping the ball with the inside of your strong foot through your legs, somewhat like this. Now, it might look advanced and difficult at first, but I'm gonna take you by the hand and show you how it's done. Put your strong foot out on the side like this. And next, you wanna jump with your standing foot, and while you're in the air, you bring your strong foot back to the ball and tap it with the inside of that foot. Jump, and tap. And once you're familiar with the very basics of the Ronaldo chop, you also wanna be comfortable doing this move to a moving ball. So you can practice that by taking the ball underneath your weak foot and rolling it very lightly towards the opposite side, and then whoop, whipping out the Ronaldo chop. And then you can move over to step two. So for step two, we're gonna forget about our weak foot and only concentrate on what our strong foot is supposed to be doing. In my case, I'm right-footed. So grab the ball underneath your strong foot. You're then gonna roll the ball back slowly and immediately move over to the Ronaldo chop. Looks something like this. Roll the ball, bam! Now, the very important thing to notice here is that your foot never touches the ground in between the two touches. You don't wanna be rolling the ball back,
putting it on the ground and then trying to save the situation and doing the Ronaldo chop. This eats away the entire effect of the skill. Instead, we're gonna be doing everything fluently and smoothly, bam, in one beautiful motion. Last couple points. Remember, we have the defender on our back and our whole point is to try and fool him. We wanna make the defender behind us believe we're going this way. Instead, we all of a sudden move over to the opposite side. And when you get comfortable with the skill, you wanna be turning and using your upper body as much as possible to make the effect of this skill even more effective. So try to experiment with, bam, completely turning your body before moving over to the Ronaldo chop.
So the first skill we're going to learn is one I like to call the Neymar dangle. It's a variation of the body feint that Neymar uses all the time, and it's really effective for getting away from defenders. So there's two steps that Neymar uses. The first step is he hops off his standing leg to one side. So that makes his body go in one direction, and he's using his body to lead the defender, making him think that's the direction he's going to go. Then with his other leg, he kind of wiggles it to really make the defender think he's going to push the ball in that direction. And then the last phase is to push the ball with the outside of the foot in the opposite direction. So let's have a look here. As we hop to the side, the defender thinks we're going that way, then we're going to wiggle our leg, really commit that defender, and then we push the ball in the opposite direction and accelerate away. The second skill is one Neymar uses when he has his back to a defender. Really effective for shaking off that defender and giving you a little bit of space to accelerate away. So once again, two phases to the movement. First phase is to bait the defender. Second phase is to accelerate away. So the first phase is putting our foot on top of the ball, rolling it to one side. As I roll the ball to the side, the defender thinks I'm gonna go that way. Then immediately I'm gonna snap the ball with the inside of my foot into the space. So I have my foot on the ball, roll it, defender commits, I snap it, I've created space to accelerate into. I've also seen Neymar use this move when he's faced 1v1 facing forwards as well. So he has the ball, he rolls it to the side, defender lunges on that ball, then I cut it into the space and accelerate off. And the third and final skill is one Neymar uses all the time. I would say this is Neymar's signature move, where he steps to the side of the ball, a little bit of a body feint, then he uses the inside of that same foot to either push the ball down the line, or more recently, as we saw in the Champions League, he uses this to nutmeg the defender. Really effective. Because Neymar is so light and quick on his feet, any sort of movement really makes that defender overcommit, so it creates a lot of room to accelerate away. Two phases to this skill once again. The first phase is to perform the body feint. So all Neymar does, he steps to the side, little bend in his knee, little drop in his shoulder, that makes the defender commit. Then the second phase is to push off of that back leg, and then you accelerate with the front foot, pushing it with the inside of your foot, either going down the side of the player, or as Neymar did in the Champions League for his goal, he performed the body feint. The defender tried to read that Neymar was going to push it down the side, so Neymar slotted it through his legs, got around the other side, slotted it far post.
So let's start off by quickly running through the three major steps on how this move comes to life, because this one is all about coordination and understanding how your body is supposed to move in order to pull this one off. So start with the ball in front of you, and step one is to bring your weak foot over the ball as if you were doing an inside step over like this. Step two is to now tap the ball with your strong foot like this. And step three is to now bring your strong foot from behind your leg over the ball, like this. I know, it looks a little bit silly when you do it that slowly, so we're gonna repeat it again. Step one, weak foot over the ball. Step two, tap the ball. Step three, bam, bring your strong foot over the ball. And that's essentially it. Now, the reason I suggest you start the whole thing off with your weak foot is because if you want to do the skill like Neymar, like this, bam, 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 actually, if you do it with your weak foot, you can see you are now setting yourself up for your strong foot. So no matter if you actually want to cross the ball, get a shot off on goal after the skill, you are able to do that. On the other hand, if you do the move, you start off with your strong foot, bam, 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 you are now going towards your weaker side, so have that in mind. let's look at a couple of ways to make this move more game-like. And my best tip is to actually try to tap the ball before your weak foot even hits the ground. Let me show you what I mean. This is what you want to do. What I mean with tapping the ball before your foot hits the ground is that a lot of people will unfortunately first start the move and place their weak foot down and then only tap the ball. This will make the move very clumsy and chunky. It's not gonna work out against any defender. So make sure that you, on the way down, bam, already tap the ball with your weak foot. My last tip for you guys is to make sure you don't tap the ball in front of you. That will make pulling off the skill very difficult for you. This is what I mean. Do not tap the ball in front. This is awkward and clumsy, and you're not gonna beat a single defender like that. What you wanna make sure to do instead is to always tap the ball sideways. If the camera is the defender, I wanna go past you and around you by tapping the ball to the side like this. Ha, ha, ha. Now, this one is all about rhythm, and we're gonna start practicing by taking the ball underneath our strong foot. Step one is to slowly roll the ball, place your foot down, bring your same foot over the ball, and then tap it with your weak foot. It's that easy. We're gonna repeat it one more time. Grab the ball underneath your strong foot, roll the ball, place your foot down, step over, and tap. Obviously, this skill really comes to life when you're not standing still, as I'm doing right now. So when you're comfortable with the mechanics of the skill, you can start doing it in motion, when you're actually moving forward. But the principles and the steps are still the same. Grab the ball underneath your strong foot, roll it forward, step over, bam, out to the side. The way I like to use this skill is actually making the step over extremely obvious. You wanna make the defender in front of you think that you're just doing a step over and going out to the opposite side as you would normally do. But all of a sudden, you actually bam, 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 go back to the other side. And you can even do all sorts of things to make this even more spicy. You can use a no-look for the last touch. Use your upper body to make small body feints. All these things help you sell the effect even more and fool the defender in front of you. Skill number 2 is an awesome first touch skill. And before we even start, I want to be extremely clear that this skill works the best when you have the defender on your back, very close to you. Now, technique-wise, this skill is extremely easy to pull off. You can start off by stepping onto the ball and then quite simply jumping with your standing foot and tapping the ball. It's as easy as that. Step on the ball, jump with your foot, bam, let go, and get rid of the defender. Technique-wise, there's not really much to this skill. I know all of you guys can pull this one off, but what this one really requires is understanding of the space around you and figuring out which way you wanna go. If you stop the ball with your right foot, you're gonna end up going towards your right shoulder. Vice versa, same thing with your left. If I wanna go here, to my right, pass is coming from here. I cannot stop the ball with my left foot and then use the skill because that would make me go to the wrong way. So be aware of that when you're practicing and trying to pull this skill off in matches. If you wanna go here towards your right shoulder, you need to first stop the ball with your right foot. Ha, ha. Guys and girls, today we're going to be learning this awesome signature skill move of Thiago Alcantara. This skill is a combination of a body feint, low center of gravity, and some fancy footwork, all mixed together into one super explosive movement. And yes, I know, I'm slow and anything but explosive, but I do believe I have some great tips on how you can learn this skill. Now, the basic premise with the Thiago feint is that we are trying to make the defender believe that we're simply gonna take a touch with the inside of our strong foot and continue the game this way. But instead, as we all know, we whip out the fancy move and go to the opposite direction. That's it. Once you understand that, you're already that much closer to learning the skill. Let's move over to step number 1. And for the step number 1, we're gonna completely forget about the fancy wiggle movement with your foot and only work on how our body is supposed to move. So let's start off with the ball directly in front of you. You wanna be standing on the ground in front of the ball, not flat-footed, but you're gonna lift your strong foot up just a little bit off the ground. We're then gonna take a little body feint step towards the other direction and simply tap the ball with the outside of your strong foot. You can already see where we're going with this one. Once again, you don't want to be standing flat-footed on the ground. Instead, we are already preparing for step number 2 by lifting our strong foot up and then taking the body feint and tapping the ball with the outside of your foot. You don't need the ball to be moving at first, just simply get comfortable with this basic movement. Step number 2, and now we're gonna bring back the wiggling strong foot. Obviously, like Thiago, we wanna make the defender believe you're about to tap the ball with the inside of your strong foot and head this way. And the wiggle is supposed to mimic just that. We're gonna be doing the exact same thing like we did in step number 1. We're just gonna add a random wiggle movement with your strong foot. So, you're standing on the ground with your weak foot on the ground, you take a little jump step and simultaneously you add that fancy looking wiggle movement. Now, basically, the main thing is, once again, to make it look like you're about to go this direction, but instead, we move over and push the ball to the opposite side. Now, a couple of extra tips to finish off the episode. Number 1, make sure you know that you're about to end up going towards your stronger side, whether it's your left or your right. I know this might sound stupid and obvious, but when you're dribbling towards a defender, make sure that you don't just pull off the skill just for the sake of doing it. You need to know that wherever you're heading towards is a safe area for you to go. Number 2, drop your shoulder. This is extremely important, and you want to be able to fool the defender already with the fake step by really going down, lowering your center of gravity, which also sets you up very nicely to push off, fast and powerfully to the opposite direction. This is insanely important because just like with any skill move you ever gonna use in front of defenders, we are trying to get the defender off balance, even just a little bit. That half a second when the defender thinks you're about to go this way is your chance, and you need to utilize that. So, drop your shoulder, and you're gonna leave the defenders behind.
So first up, we have the Dennis Bergkamp touch, which you can do when you have the back towards the defender and he or she is relatively close to you. So when the ball is coming towards you, you use the outside of your foot and gently lift your toes to kind of make the ball go in a small chip around the defender. And then of course you run the other way around, hoping that the defender is going to follow your movement instead of the ball's. But what you need to be aware of is that there's not a second defender supporting Pole WG here, because then the loose ball is just going to be super easy to snap up. So before you receive the pass, look around, see is there anyone behind the defender straight behind you, and then be sure that there's actually space when you want to try and pull this move off. Phil. Next up, we have one of the most effective first touch moves when it comes to beating your defender directly. Because if you're in a situation where the defender is a little bit in front of you and to the side, you want to try and open up your body to beat him with the first touch. Because if you see here, I open up my body like this. When I receive the pass, I can actually turn my first touch into a dribble. Meaning that if you try and spot the difference here, if I just face the ball and kill it directly in front of me, the defender is going to come close. And to get out of that situation, I can either move that way, I don't want that, or I can try and make a very, very hard angle dribble that way. But instead, if I simply just open up my body like this, I can say bye. Now you might also be in a situation where the defender is again relatively close to you, there's a pass coming in, but you want to go in the opposite direction of that you're facing. So what you can do is that when the pass comes, you kind of do but tap with the inside of the foot furthest away from the defender, kind of like when you do a Cruyff turn. Here you just tap it gently behind you, then you turn around and you run after the ball. Because this means that, of course, if you've checked that you have space to run into, you can kind of protect the ball with your body, turn around and get rid of the defender. Phil. Now, the next trick is something that I honestly don't know the name for, so let's call it the Super Chop 3000. Because if you're in a situation where you would normally open up your body to take that brilliant directional first touch away from pole WG, you can also do this. So if the ball is coming from down here, rolling towards you, you open up your body, but you make a small little chop towards where the ball actually came from. And if you combine this with a little cheeky shoulder drop, it's going to be extremely difficult for pole WG or any defender to know what on earth is going on. Phil. Now, I know I told you not to do it, but if you still find yourself in a situation where you're facing the ball straight on and you're not able to open up your body to get that sweet directional first touch around the defender, there is still something you can do, and that is to use the outside of your foot. What you want to do here is when the ball comes in, you want to angle your foot so that when you then open up your body finally, the foot is basically going to push the ball in the right direction for a sweet first touch. You simply just need to make sure that your first touch with the outside is good, so you don't push it like 40 meters down the line, because then pole WG is gonna catch you and kick you down. Phil.
The mindset for this skill is that you're playing on the wing, you have a defender close by, and as soon as you receive the ball, your plan is to take him on one-on-one in order to deliver a cross into the box or get a shot off on goal. But for whatever reason, you're actually receiving the ball with your back towards the defender. Now this skill is gonna help you get into a good position to beat the man in front of you. And here's how we're gonna do it. Now, I know it might look simple and ridiculously easy, but the magic of this move is in the details. Let's break it down. As the ball is approaching you, bam! We are trying to stop the ball and get our body to face the defender as quickly as possible while standing still in order to make the defender attack for the ball so that you can make your next move, bam, and get past him. Also, you want to notice that this is not just a simple bottom of the foot turn. That would look like this. And in this scenario, the ball just keeps rolling towards the defender. You're gonna lose the ball. Instead, with this skill, we are actually slightly, bam, dragging the ball towards us in order to maintain control at all times. You wanna be the master of the ball, be in charge. Don't let the ball go towards the defender. You just wanna set yourself up to beat the man in front of you. Now, a former teammate of mine who absolutely loved this skill told me that the best way to make this most effective is to actually, as you turn with the ball, bam, you want to place both of your feet down to the ground. Why? Well, for one reason or another, it makes the defender in front of you unconsciously think you are losing control of the ball. Perhaps this will make him want to attack the ball more, and then, bam, you just whip the ball over his foot and get past him. Now, the best way to start practicing this skill is actually forgetting about the pass or a wall or wherever you are bouncing the ball from, and actually just start with the ball in front of you. You obviously want to start practicing this skill with your strong foot. For me, I'm right-footed, so I'm using my right foot entirely to pull off this skill. You want to step on the ball with your right foot, jump with your standing foot, bam, and turn 180 degrees. Ha! Also, as we just spoke, you actually want to be placing both feet down after the skill. You don't want to be holding on to the ball for too long the entire time like this, because this doesn't make you as mobile. You are not as able to quickly, bam, explode and go past the defender in front of you. And I really hope you guys at home can see the difference what this can make. This small little detail. It makes the defender think the ball is theirs. It's out there for the defender for the taking. But all of a sudden, because of your little genius move, ha, ha, you are ready to fly past him. One of the things all players on the pitch do all the time is receiving the ball, usually with a defender close to you. So the basic premise for this skill is that you have your defender right next to you, or actually right behind you, and you are receiving a pass from your teammate. And obviously you want to get rid of the defender as soon and as efficiently as possible. And we're gonna achieve that by making a simple body feint with the outside of your foot and then going the opposite way. You receive the ball, whip out a body feint and rush to the opposite direction. The professional players use this skill all the time when receiving the ball. Actually, you can even use this even after a couple of dribbles. And it's a great skill for creating space when you need it the most. Practice-wise, there's not too much going on here. You basically just receive the ball, bam! Have a defender on your back that you acknowledge, you make a simple body feint, grab the ball with you and go to the opposite direction. But trust me, no matter which game you're watching on TV, you're gonna be seeing the pros relying on this simple looking skill time and time again. Why? Because it works. Now, you as the central midfielder are receiving the ball almost more than any other player on the pitch. And the first move we're gonna be working on is a simple 180-degree turn, but with a little twist. So, the scenario here is that you are, for example, receiving the ball from your teammate, but before even receiving the ball, you know you wanna take the game to the opposite direction. But at the same time, you wanna hide your intentions until the very end. How we're gonna achieve that is by doing something like this. Now, this move requires a little bit of coordination, and you need to understand that you wanna hide your intentions as long as possible. Now, as the ball is coming towards you, you wanna stop the ball with your strong foot. In my case, it's my right foot. And immediately after stopping the ball, you're even gonna take an extra step with your weak foot, bam, to the direction where the ball is coming from, to try and make the defender around you believe that you're just gonna continue the game to where the ball came from. But instead, after touching the ball and doing the fake step, you're gonna, bam, turn your body, grab the ball with you and move over to the opposite side, like this. My last piece of advice here is to try and not turn your body to the direction where you eventually wanna go to too early. As you can see here, bam, we're taking the step here and my chest and my whole momentum is still showing the defender that I'm about to go this way. That's at least what it seems like to the defenders, but instead, as we already know, we're gonna turn our body in the very end, bam, and go over to the opposite side. So, the next first touch skill is actually a really good one, but unfortunately, we don't see this happening on the pitch too often by young amateur players. And hopefully in today's episode, we're gonna change that. Now, here's roughly what we're gonna be working with. This one is all about the element of surprise, and what we're really trying to do here is to make it seem like we're just gonna receive the ball and afterwards try and come up with something what to do with the ball. But instead, immediately after the first touch, bam! You're gonna smack the ball with the outside of your foot. Now, obviously, the best advice here is to pull off the entire skill using only your strong foot. For me, it's right foot, so bam, bam! That should help you out. Now, this move is especially effective when there's a defender who's rushing in on you with a lot of speed. And hopefully, you can catch him off guard with your sudden change of pace. Also, you wanna make sure that you know what's happening on this side of the pitch, or whatever the direction where you're gonna be heading to with your quick second touch. Because you don't wanna end up in a situation where you take the first touch, all of a sudden towards 10 other defenders. That's not a good look for you. And just like with the previous skill, we are trying to hide our intentions until the very end. And technically, the only thing you really wanna keep in mind is that you don't wanna be putting your foot to the ground in between the two touches. Instead, you're gonna keep it in the air in order to be able to pull this off as fast and surprisingly as possible.
First up is the Hocus Pocus, which is probably also the most flashy of the bunch. Is it the most effective? No, but it can look really cool and actually also be effective if you're caught towards the touchline and you're standing relatively still with the opponent close to you. Because what you want to do here is to wrong foot the defender and put him off balance simply by pushing the ball towards the goal line and then switching the angle to make the ball go towards the corner of the opposition box. So the Hocus Pocus works like this. If the defender is right in front of you, you step past the ball with your weak foot, then you use the inside of your strong foot to push the ball in a sliding motion behind your weak foot. And then in the same motion, you actually use the top of your strong foot to push the ball forward. So you wrong foot the defender and get the ball moving that way. And it can be a little bit difficult. You're gonna have to practice it a lot before you try and pull it off in a match. But a little tip could be to actually lift the heel off your weak foot just a little bit when you do that flip-flop elastico-like motion, and at one point, it should come off. And you can say that if you fail, at least you fail in style. Sack. Next up, we have a bit of a CR7 special, namely the heel chop. And the reason it's so good is that it's a very sudden and sharp change of direction that you can do while you're running at full speed. And full speed is the key here because the defender is probably also running very fast, so when you do that sudden sharp change of direction, he's gonna continue that way while you're going that way. The important thing about the heel chop is that the chop itself is very powerful, and you get a powerful chop doing like this. You kind of jump over the ball with your weak foot, and then you use the chopping leg that you kind of have to do a stomping motion, putting it very powerfully into the ground, almost as if you have to go through the side of the ball to get that very zack, hard chop-like motion. Of course, ideally, you want to do the chop on the other side of the flank so you can come in on your strong foot, get a shot on goal. But since my weak foot chopping sucks, I mostly do it on the right flank. I'm right-footed, so I can chop, go in, step over, and then set my teammate up with an assist. But work on your weak foot chopping, guys. It's way better. It's the Marseille turn, and the reason I love it so much is that it's essentially a very sharp 90-degree turn where you end up facing forwards with a great view of the goal and your teammates in the box. And also, because you can basically do it at full speed, you can use that forward-facing momentum to make sure that the defender doesn't catch you. Now, the way you pull off the Marseille turn is, well, it's best if the defender is slightly in front of you and a bit to the side, meaning that you can take a touch forward, then you stretch out your strong foot to kind of stop the ball with the sole. And in the same motion, you start dragging it backwards. Now, when you do that drag back, you also start spinning your upper body, facing actually the other way than you want to go. Because when you do that spinning, your weak foot kind of follows, meaning that you just have to grab the ball with the sole off your weak foot, drag it the other way, exit the move, and score some goals. Now, the easiest move to cut inside is to use the #1 go-to move when it comes to wrong-footing the defender and getting him off balance, which is the classic shoulder drop. See, the beautiful thing about the shoulder drop is that you can use it anywhere on the pitch, but cutting inside is also brilliant. So when you come towards the defender, you basically just take a small touch, dropping your shoulder towards the goal line, signaling that you want to make a dribble, a touch going wide. That means that most likely the defender will put all his body weight towards the goal line because he wants to follow you. Now, when he does that, you basically do the shoulder drop and you take a quick touch away from him in the other direction, meaning that because all his balance is going outside, well, he's gonna have the turning radius of Harry Maguire, giving you a lot of space to run into. Sorry, Harry, I love you, but... Finally, I also occasionally use the inside step over, which does more or less the exact same thing as the shoulder drop, but I feel that it tends to work a bit more effectively because the ball moves a little bit towards the goal line as well, and there are a few more really sharp changes of direction. Now, ideally, you want the defender's balance again leaning towards the goal line, and you can achieve that by tapping the ball with your strong foot, using the inside of your strong foot, stepping over it with your strong foot, stepping over it with your weak foot, and then moving towards the box. Because this means that there's gonna be the ball moving that way, balance goes towards the goal line, you step over, defender has to overcompensate, come back this way, and you make another step over, which means that he has to overcompensate even more, leaning towards the goal line, and then you're gone. See you later.
So first up, we have a move that has two elements to it. The first is the simple L drag. So to perform the L drag, we place our foot on top of the ball using the sole of our foot and drag it back towards us diagonally. As we let the ball go, we then touch it with the inside of the foot and diagonally out to the opposite side. And then we catch it with the opposite sole of our left foot. Then once again, you're gonna drag the ball back towards you at an angle. This time, you're not gonna let it go behind your leg this time. This time, you're gonna change feet and then you're gonna push it out 45 degrees once again. So it's a couple of movements here, but very simple. So first one is L drag, catch the ball, drag, and then push. And then you accelerate off into the space. Next up, we have a very similar move. We're gonna take a touch with the inside of our foot once again, but this time, instead of throwing our body beside the ball, we're actually gonna throw our foot all the way around the ball. So adding even more deceptiveness to this one to throw that defender off. So it's a little touch with the inside of the foot, and you step over the ball, nice bend in the knee, nice drop of the shoulder to really sell the direction, and then you're gonna use the outside of the opposite foot to accelerate away. The next move is a great one to use when you have a defender on your back. So if we're acting like we're shielding off a defender here, we're gonna have our foot on the ball furthest away from the defender. So as you can see, I've got one foot in between me and the defender, and then another foot is extended, sole on the ball to keep it away from that defender so he can't get it. And then the first movement is to drag the ball to one side. This is gonna act as the bait. So as I drag the ball to this direction, the defender's gonna move in this direction, then I'm gonna use the inside of the same foot to snap it back over here. And if we do it quickly enough, we can tell the defender to go into that side and accelerate in this direction. So a little bit quicker here, snap, and off we go. And the final move is perfect for creating that little bit of space so you can take a shot. So what we're gonna do is act like we're gonna strike the ball, planting our foot beside the ball, arm up for balance, bending our leg, really making it seem like we're gonna shoot. And then as we're about to strike the ball, we cushion our technique, take a touch with the inside of that foot. That's gonna make the defender freeze and change his body position to try and block the ball on this side. Then immediately, with our opposite foot, we're gonna take another touch with the inside to then push it back into the space so then we can take that shot. So let's piece it all together here, make it look like you're gonna shoot, touch with the inside of the foot, defender moves, another inside touch.
Next up, we have the mother of all football skills, the Cruyff turn. Yes, it's an easy skill, you've heard everything about it, but since you guys want to see real-life match football skills, it doesn't get much better than the Cruyff turn. Now, from central defenders to the attackers, the pros are time and time again relying on this simple skill. And the best thing about the Cruyff turn is that you can use it as a first touch, as a fake pass, as a fake shot, or just as a simple 180-degree turn. Now, practice-wise, the Cruyff turn is extremely simple. Step one is to simply place your weaker foot slightly in front of the ball. You then bring out your strong foot and tap the ball between your legs and go to the opposite direction. It's as simple as that. And my best two tips for pulling off the Cruyff turn as efficiently as possible is to make sure that you start turning your body already a little bit in advance. That way you get to rush off to the opposite direction a little bit faster. And as well, you actually want to tap the ball with kind of like the toe area of your strong foot. You don't actually want to be tapping the ball with the very inside of your foot like this. That will make the skill a little bit more chunky. Now, for the last skill, we're gonna be working on a fake shot combined with an outside of the foot turn. And this skill works the best when you're dribbling towards a defender, and you want to change quickly direction and get rid of him. Now, the great thing about the sudden outside of the foot turn is that when you combine it with a fake shot, you hopefully get the defender to lean over slightly to this side, and then, you're simply gonna go to the opposite direction and get rid of him. And I know what you're thinking. Jolter, this is the most simple looking skill of all times. How will this ever beat defenders? Yes, this is not about fancy step overs and fancy flick ups, but trust me, it doesn't get much better than a simple outside of the foot turn. And once you get creative with this skill, you can actually adjust it as much as you like. You can take the outside of the foot touch slightly in front of you, or you can even turn completely to the opposite direction based on where you need to go. So get creative and start experimenting with this simple skill.
So let's kick things off with the first move, and of course we can't compile a list of Brazilian skills without including the Elastico. So the Elastico has been used by Brazilian players throughout the years to unbalance defenders and beat them 1v1. So the first step to the Elastico is pushing the ball at an angle with the outside to the top of your foot, right here in between the laces and the outside of the foot. So with this area of the foot, we're going to push the ball 45 degrees in the opposite direction to where we eventually take the ball. This is going to bait the defender, so to really sell it, what we need to do as we're making contact with the ball and pushing it, we're going to drop our shoulder, bend our knee, and use our body to really make it look like we're going to go in this direction. And then we're going to transfer the ball to the inside of the foot, and it's almost all in one movement. So we push the ball, we transfer it to the inside, and snap it in the opposite direction. So the key with this one is to keep in contact with that ball throughout the movement. We're not tapping it away from us, but instead we're pushing the ball. So it should stay stuck to your foot, and then you're going to transfer it to the inside, and then you're going to push it in the opposite direction, and that's when you accelerate away. This is a move I haven't seen any other player do other than R9 Ronaldo Fenomeno, arguably one of the best Brazilian players of all time. So for this skill, there's 3 steps. The first step is to place your foot on top of the ball and use the sole of the foot to drag it back towards you 45 degrees. And then the second step is to hop off of our standing leg and use the inside of the foot to push it back in the same direction the ball just came from. So you drag it back towards you, hop off of your standing leg, and you're going to push it back where it just came from. Final step is to hit the ball with the inside of your opposite foot 45 degrees in the opposite direction once again, and this is where we accelerate away. So the first 2 steps are to bait the defender, so you drag it back towards you, hit it back, that makes the defender lunge for the ball, then you're going to use the inside of the foot, hit the ball past their foot, and you can accelerate away. The fourth skill is one used by another Brazilian legend, Robinho. And there's a few more steps to this one, but if used in the right areas, this one can be really effective. So the first step is pushing the ball out 90 degrees from where we're standing. So we push the ball out 90 degrees, and then we're going to use a Rabona kicking technique to make it seem like we're going to strike the ball. So the Rabona is when we use our striking leg, go behind our standing foot and strike the ball. But instead of striking the ball, what Robinho does, he hops over the ball and pushes the ball back in the direction it came from. So he hops over, uses the top of his striking foot, pushes the ball back, and he uses this to bait the defender into lunging for the ball. As that defender lunges, he pulls the ball back towards himself, then uses the inside of that same foot, pushes it across, transfers feet, and then pushes it beyond the defender where he can accelerate away. So let's piece it all together here. So we push the ball 90 degrees, hop over the ball, push it back in the direction we just came from, pull the ball away from the defender's foot, croqueta around, and accelerate away. Final skill is a variation of the sombrero flick used by Neymar Jr. So there's 2 steps to this movement. The first step is getting the ball up into the air so that we can use the outside of our foot to flick it over the defender's head. So the flick up that Neymar uses, he places his non-dominant foot on the ball and he drags it back towards himself. Then with his opposite foot, he gets underneath the ball to lift it into the air. So kind of like this. But instead of flicking it directly up in front of himself, he flicks it slightly behind himself, which is really effective for two reasons. If the ball's going away from the defender, it's going to make that defender lunge forward so that when you flick the ball over their head, their momentum's coming forward and it gives you more chance of getting away from them on the opposite side. But also, it puts the ball in a position where he can just lift his foot, use the outside to make contact with the ball and flick it up over the defender's head. So when you're flicking up the ball towards you, make sure it's coming slightly behind you. Instead of right in front of you, just slightly behind so you can raise your foot and flick it up over the defender's head. So let's piece it all together here. We flick up the ball by dragging it towards us, slightly behind, up over the defender's head, and off we go.
Today we're going to teach you a cheeky little skills move from Kevin De Bruyne, and in particular, we're talking about this Pana move. First up, we need to analyze what De Bruyne actually does. So basically, the skill consists of him stepping on the ball with the sole of his right foot, dragging it a little to the side, also with his right, then jumping with his left and scooping the ball a little bit with the side of his left foot, and finally getting the Pana with the inside of his right foot. But everything is done in the same fluid motion. And maybe you're able to do the trick simply just by watching the video, but you might also need some help. And if you want to get that, you can break this skill down into 3 steps that you'll then need to put together in the end. The key to the trick here is to master that stop, drag and roll movement with your right and your left feet. So let's try and make it really easy to understand. Now what you need to master is to basically get used to stopping the ball and dragging it to the side with the sole of your right foot. It's a triangle movement with your feet that you can basically practice even without the ball, just to make it as smooth as possible with your body. And once you have that, feel confident in that, you can simply do it on the ball. Just make sure that your body stays upright so you keep the balance and you're ready to move on to the next step. Then we need to get the left foot involved. So when you step on the ball and start rolling it to the side, you make a little jump with your left foot to gently tap the side of the ball and help you guide the ball towards the right so you can transition fluidly into that Pana motion. Now you'll need to get the balance and the weight right, so practice this movement, so do like that, in order for you to really nail down that transition fluidly. And when we put it on the ball, it looks a little bit like that. Third step is, as you probably guessed, to connect the 2 previous steps to the Pana in that smooth, fluid motion. And this is actually where the balance that we talked about before comes into the picture. But let's take a step back and actually look at something you need to do first, which is to take step 1, so stopping the ball, dragging it a little bit to the side, but then coupling it with the Pana in that smooth motion. And once you have that on lock, you can then bring in that small jump with the left foot and hopefully, with a bit of practice, pull off the trick, like this.
So let's have a look at the first skill here. The best place to use this one is on the sideline because we're reenacting like we're going to perform a V-cut, which is to drag it back and then push it with the inside of our foot. So most defenders will read this and try and block the ball, so you can turn this into a nutmeg opportunity. So the first phase of the movement is to drag the ball back. As we drag the ball back, the defender's typically going to reach for that ball, and as you can see, the gap's created through their legs. Then you're going to use the outside of the same foot and slot the ball through and control the ball on the other side. That's one variation of it. A second variation, we can use our foot furthest away from the ball, perform the same movement, drag it back towards us once again. Defender's going to lunge for the ball, then we use the outside of the opposite foot, flick it through, and off we go. The second nutmeg is a great one to use on the wing once again when the defender's approaching from the middle of the pitch. A perfect example of this one is Lionel Messi on James Milner, and instead of using a movement of the ball to bait the defender, we're going to use our body to bait the defender. So I have the ball at my feet, I'm going to make it seem like I'm going to travel down the wing, and I'm going to use my body to lunge forward. That's going to make the defender step, and as you can see, creating a gap between the legs. Then we're going to use the outside of our opposite foot to push it through, and then we can retrieve the ball on the opposite side, and now the defender has their back to you, so now you can accelerate away, and they're going to have to turn a whole 180 degrees before they start chasing after you. And the third and final nutmeg is another good one that you can use on the wing, but you can also use one in the middle of the pitch. So this one's a little bit more hidden. So what we're gonna do is we're face one-on-one with the opponent, and we're gonna step over the ball with our foot furthest away from the ball. So we step across, make it seem like we're gonna go down the line. That creates the gap between the defender's legs. And then we're gonna use our back foot this time, using the inside of the foot to push the ball through. So once again, we step across that ball. This makes the defender thinking we're going one way, and then we're gonna use our back foot to put the ball through their legs. Then we can get the ball on the opposite side.
Have you ever gotten a cross so perfect that just taking it down with the inside of your foot wouldn't do the cross any justice at all? Well, Neymar has, and he used that opportunity to showcase his immense control and skill by taking the ball down like this. So before we start learning this first touch skill, decide what foot you want to control the ball with. In my case, it's my left. So you want to jump with this foot and angle the foot towards the ball. While in mid-air, move your front leg to make space for the ball to hit your back foot. And when the ball hits your foot, keep your foot steady to control the ball. In theory, this move is very, very easy, but to pull it off, let alone in a professional game like Neymar did, it requires huge amounts of training. You've all seen the rainbow, right? Maybe you landed it, maybe you even pulled it off in a game. But this move is so much harder to pull off in a game than a regular rainbow. But it will still look cool for the gram. So let's start by learning the advanced rainbow standing still. It's basically a Ronaldinho flick to a heel touch over your head. Start by rolling the ball with one foot onto the other foot. This will make the ball bounce up, and as the ball bounces up, hit the ball with your heel or the outside of your foot in a projectile that sends the ball over your head and your opponent's head. Now onto the tough part. Do it with pace. So start by running with the ball and then slightly twist your body towards the ball. Do the Ronaldinho flick and turn back your body and heel the ball over your head and your opponent's head. The thing is that you don't want to heel the ball too high, because then all of a sudden you have a heading challenge against the opponent that you tried to pass. But you don't want to get it too low either, because you will hit the back of your head. And lastly, we got the Gutsabrero, which is a combination between the Gutsa flick and the sombrero flick. And I've quite frankly never seen this move ever done in a game before, and maybe you'll be the first. But let's be very, very clear here. This is a very advanced move with a high risk, average reward in a game, but it does look hella cool though. Start by rolling the ball with your strong foot and then plant your foot in the ground and let the ball bounce up from your foot. When the ball is in the air, tap the ball with your toes in the direction that the ball came from. You can either tap it high to get it over your opponent, or you can try to get it around your opponent. Now that you tap the ball, you want to turn your body into the opposite direction in which you tap the ball. So I'm tapping the ball to my right, so I'm turning my body to my left. Take all these steps together now, and you got the Gutsabrero.
our detailed explanation on 45 different skills you can start practicing immediately. Remember that for more videos about new skills and how to indeed learn them, you absolutely need to subscribe to our channel. And if you're still hungry for more skills, check out another 1-hour mashup of skills on the bottom right corner of your screen. Anyways, hope you've enjoyed this pretty lengthy episode, and with those words, I'm out.